Welcome to our Sunday specials. Hundreds of children who have lost their whole lives ahead of them have had to live with the stigma and harrowing experiences of being called a witch. From many of these victims, it is a horrifying cycle of superstition, abuse and torture. Although the law exists, which does laws are to protect these children, the old practice is finding its way back into the society. TVC News Miriam Daniels brings us the story.
I remember when my dad beat me and told me to eat my own shit.
Among the 14 basic rights of a child as contained in the Nigerian Child Rights Law is the right to dignity. The law also guarantees a child's freedom from discrimination. In 2008, the government of Akwa State, when Godswill Akpabio served as governor, domesticated the Child Right Act. The law specifically made accusing children of witchcraft and torturing them in the process criminal.
So people have accused me that we are fighting a war against Christendom. No, we are trying to protect the rights of children. So it's important for the world to know, yes, that here in Akwa Ibom State, you have a government that cares and is proactive.
I just noticed that last year when they did the exhibition, I'm like, so this thing is raising its ugly head again.
They accused me and my sister for the accident of my mom.
He took me to church. The prophet told them that I was a witch. So coming back, my dad beats me every time. My dad locked me in his room.
My pastor's son, he was first accused. I don't know what happened in his family. And one way to avoid being beaten was you had to mention other children in your coven. And so he just listed anybody that came to his head, and unfortunately, I was mentioned.
Despite these provisions, the practice of holding children responsible for any misfortune that befalls their family in Akwa Ibom State, accusing them of witchcraft and exposing them to torture and other inhuman treatment have refused to end. In September 2024, TVC News reported that 12-year-old Bright Sunday in Ibom, Akwa Ibom State, was accused of being the witch who was responsible for the misfortune in her family. She was locked up and tortured by her father and stepmother for 2 years without food or water until she was rescued by operatives of the National Security and Civil Defense Corps.
Yes, she wants to kill me. So I'm saying my mother is giving me wish. My father does say I am a wish. She used to sometimes she give me food. Sometimes she give me food to eat. So many times she put me today and tomorrow she not give me food. I wanted to jump through the protector window. Yes, I jumped it before somebody catch me and come.
I continued giving her food until the day I fell so sick, up to the point of death. And that from that day, then when I recovered, when I fell in that sick, she told me that she is the one that they send her to come and destroy me. And he's the one that is fighting for me to be dead. Then from that day, I did not continue to feed her as I used to.
So in the course of working on this story, we discovered that 8 out of 10 parents who believed their children were witches did so because a prophet operating in a church had told them so.
These children are usually forced to own up to the accusations through severe torture that could result in death. And when the child is lucky, the deep scars will remain a constant reminder of the cruelty of their early life.
I get to relieve this trauma whenever I see or hear stories like this. Sometimes it's hard for me, it really is. I will not say that I should get over 100%, but I will not say that I have 100%. Sometimes when I think about it, it annoys me. I feel like you people almost destroyed my life with this fallacy, and now everybody's coming to say, oh, we did not know, it was not true, sorry. But I mean, the harm has already been done.
Sometimes I grew up to think about it, and it gets me seriously offended. Why my parents would have even thought of me to that extent.
So in your own case, it wasn't a pastor or a prophet that told your parents you were
No.
So simply your parents just noticed you was a very
stubborn child, and then for them, they assumed I must have been bewitched by someone. And so now I must tell them who did it.
The prophets sometimes claim to conduct deliverance on the children, to clean them of the evil spirits, and this comes with giving them all manner of substances, known and unknown. They are expected to drink them and then vomit the witchcrafts.
He gave us things to drink. I mean, taking crude oil for almost a year with salt, it was horrible concoction. I don't know how we survived drinking that for almost a year. I could remember they would give us a peppery substance to take, then we'll steal blood, and they say, that is it.
There was a neighbor we had back then, and they used to patronize all these prayer houses. And so there was this beautiful day I went to her house, and she was bathing the kids to go to church. I witnessed them preparing, and then they left. She practically drove the kids to church, only to bring back the dead bodies of these children. How did that happen? They went to church, and then the children were accused of being witches, and then said these children, they've been bewitched from birth. So what's going to be done? The substance is going to be put into the mouth of these children, and they will vomit whatever thing they took in, and the mother will see, and the substance was dropped into the mouth of these children. And there the children fell and died, and that was the end.
In a phone conversation with a pastor in a local church who was not disposed to being filmed, he claimed that his church is able to diagnose and deliver one from witchcrafts. He explained that the accused child is kept in the church alone in the dark, while the child will be exorcised within a period of time. But he added that this will come with a financial cost. Three months after bringing Bride's ordeal to the public, TVC News discovered that she was not the only victim. Many children in Akwa State are still made the scapegoat of the family's perceived ill luck. Many are still being accused of witchcraft and tortured.
They normally don't bring a gas. Let me say it's just like a shelter. Then they will get a lighter. When they, when they on up the gas, the gas spray into the lighter, whereby it turns like a big amount of fire. So they did it so that we will be able to tell them why we're destroying their home.
Like an evening like this, my dad came out with rod, started beating me and saying that he heard that I'm the one holding his destiny, tying his destiny, that he will not allow me to succeed in this life, that he must make sure anywhere I am frustrated, he will kill me and all of that. So they saw me that night and they're asking me why am I not going back to my dad's house. I told him that my dad doesn't want to see me. So I didn't know that they were literally tricking me, because they were living close to sunshine. So they took me there, they raped me, the two of them raped me. I think that was at my 11 years old. So I got raped at that time, and then it's fine. Okay. Okay, so I got raped that night. That was how. And then the next day, I had to see someone that literally give me food while on the streets.
Our interactions with every respondent pointed to religious beliefs and poverty as the root of the problem.
Illiteracy, lack of exposure, and the most important is some of these churches, some of the prophets, the assignments, and all of those people that are not contented with maybe one church they are going. They will be going to prayer houses and all of it. They will go and find something to tell you now.
Poverty mostly is the problem. Unemployment, economic disempowerment, and all that are major issues why these issues come up, and people will always look for an excuse.
We visited a child rescue home in Eket local government area, where we spoke with the founder. Her organization has been actively working to rescue and rehabilitate children accused of witchcraft in Akwa State. She shares some heart-wrenching experiences.
I noticed a young boy lying on the streets, bare, without any clothes. And I thought to myself, this is a child. Could this child be alive or dead? I had already bought the vehicle, so I had to stop, pay my money, and go down. And I saw that this young boy had a hole in his head, and they had used nail to push that nail, to push it into his skull. So he died. I have never wept like that before.
10-year-old Emmanuel and 20-year-old Esther are some of the victims locally rescued by Way to Nations NGO.
So since then, before the parent now called the police, and then the police came, rescue us by breaking through the back door.
According to mental health reports by UNICEF, as well as studies in psychology and trauma recovery, witchcraft accusations and the torture of children have devastating mental and emotional effects that can last a lifetime.
She's a witch.
And in the long term, without psychological intervention, the effects of these traumatic experiences can persist into adulthood, affecting relationships, career prospects, and overall quality of life.
So, how has your brother been able to come out of it? Has he healed? Has he been able to regain his identity or something? Talk to us about
My brother hasn't, at least not to the level I am. My brother was the most quiet among, we are three. He was the most quiet among all of us, but it changed his life. My brother became Raz, even as a teenager, became very stubborn. He just felt like if his father could not understand him or believe him well, so he just became wild. And then I think at a point, he tried to take poison. Somebody called and said, your brother just took rat poison. And I asked him, he said, sister, I just want to die, because there was no support.
A popular preacher in Uyo, Abel Damina, says witchcraft is physical, not spiritual. He condemns the accusation and torture of children for the belief that they are possessed by witchcraft spirit.
So stigmatizing children and calling them witches is not scripturally right. It's not scripturally right, because those children are still trying to find their lives. They are still trying to grow. They are still trying to come to terms with who they are. You don't stigmatize them. That's pure wickedness.
Etidong Idonsit Ekong is the village head of Atanafort Uyo. He speaks about the role of traditional institutions in preventing children from being turned to victims of what they know nothing about.
But if somebody comes out and lodges a complaint and is ready to defend, that is when we will make sure we direct the attention of the law enforcement agent, people who are ready to take up the matter to a conclusive end, to step in.
So by the time we are able to analyze the underlying, factors that led to the accusation, we are in a better place to counsel. And in those 2 cases we were able to counsel, and we actually took one of the children into our shelter because we were about to prosecute. But then we saw the remorse, because the man saw what was really the problem, and we were able to reconcile them. So it's not the justice system, like now our prisons are congested, right? So we are looking for other means of sorting out issues without having to. It must not be custodial. It must not be someone being put in prison.
At this point in working on this story, there are plenty unanswered questions. One is, what really can the law enforcement agencies do in this situation where the parents are the same people that subject their children to agony and humiliation?
Well, witchcraft have no place in our law books, except the person being accused own up to it, that is, confess to it. Then there are appropriate sections of the law to take care of that. We still have to throw it back to you wherever you know that such children are undergoing such torture. Let us know. The perpetrators will be charged appropriately. If it's a case of assault, they're going for assault. If it's a case of wounding, they're going for wounding, and etc.
Can healing ever be complete?
Do you think they have any regret now?
It put a big strain on my father. Our relationship, till now, we do not have a good relationship, because every time I see him, I remember the stuff just stays in front of me. So sometimes I want to believe that he didn't know, he was ignorant, and the other times I'm like, why? Why did you have to? Currently, I want to begin to mend the relationship, because every girl needs her father. I don't know how to start. I don't know.
The scars, both physical and emotional, run deep. But Diana Bessie says with proper intervention, therapy, and community support, there is hope.
When one of them was about to graduate, I sent for her father. And her father came and sat with me right in this office. And I told him, see your daughter, she's a graduate. And he was excited that his daughter was a graduate. And then I asked him, do you remember what you said about this same daughter? Oh, it was out of ignorance. And I told him, I have not conducted one deliverance session for your daughter. In case you think I've exorcised, I don't practice exorcism. I've not done one deliverance session, the way you people call deliverance, for your child. What I did was love your children.
Now the law is there. The responsibility then lies with families, religious institutions, traditional leaders, and other stakeholders to ensure that every child in Akwa Ibom State is free and protected to actualize his or her potential without any inhibition. Until this is done and culprits punished as the law provides, the hope of building a society where every child has equal opportunities to excel may remain a facet. These are not witches. These are children.
Indeed. Let's bring in Miriam Daniels, who joins us on the news to share her experience while covering this story. Miriam, it's good to have you join us. I'm just wondering how these accusations have affected the children, the lives of the children, their families, and, you know, just from the stories you've told, I'm thinking what support systems really are in place to help, you know, these children when they're being accused of witchcraft?
Good evening, Sarah. First of all, the experience I had while telling the story was quite an emotional one. I cried many times in this story when I got to speak with the victims and hearing what they had to tell me. It made me cry. So many times I had to talk with them. Now, this is intended to bring the awareness that, look, yes, once upon a time, this had been so widespread until there were laws that came to put that in check. And it seemed everyone actually had that consciousness to know that, look, it's a child of witchcraft. And it looked like everyone acted or behaved well for a period of time. And now it's quietly back into the things seem to be happening unnoticed. So that was the idea behind the story, especially when we had to bring the story of Bright Sunday. And then that actually moved how many more to the adult victims too. That also allowed me to talk with lots of adults who have similar stories. Okay, they're adults today, but they have similar stories of similar experiences they had during childhood, And the other part too that seems soothing, perhaps at the end of the day, there are people, irrespective of how perhaps society may look at these kind of children, there are people who are interested in these kind of children. There are people who look out for these children. They take them in, they provide education for them, they provide health care for them. And this is a call on the government to know that, look, we have the laws, but there should be more stringent measures towards implementing these laws. So people don't do this, abuse these children who end up on the streets and losing their lives, losing their destinies. I mean, we could have had doctors among them. We could have had great politicians among them. We could have had great journalists among them, But if eventually they are thrown out, who will be the leader tomorrow? Who will be the hero of the country, so to say? And we also know that
Miriam, we seem to be losing some parts of the conversation, but would like to thank you so much. Hopefully we'll get to hear a more positive response from the government as to how they will create a support system for these children who are victims, of their parents' superstitions and some of the, superstitions they've heard from churches and some other religious leaders. I want to say thank you so much for bringing that report back to the front line so that we can discuss this. Thank you so much. And of course, we are with the children. And just like you said at the end of the report, children, they are children. And of course, they are not witches. Thank you so much for bringing that report to us. Well, that's TVC News this hour. For more updates on the stories we're monitoring, you can visit our website. It's tvcnews.tv. You can also follow us on all of our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and on X at TVC News NG. On YouTube, we're live at TVC News Nigeria. Thanks for watching. Have a good